censorship in public schools is a limiting and, I believe, harmful practice. There is very little research to suggest that preventing certain topics being discussed in classrooms has any bearing on whether or not students might pursue the search for knowledge in those areas. It's a touchy subject to begin with. I think it's important to lay down the baseline of many people feel differently about this subject, and some people feel extremely passionate about this subject. And while I think it's important to respect that passion, it's also important for those who are that passionate to be willing to hear other sides of the argument. I will state it plainly, as I already have. Censorship is harmful. It does more damage than it does any good. Preventing students from learning about any subjects such as sexual orientation or gender identity or even critical race theory, preventing students from understanding these subjects is essentially the problem. Ignorance is the greatest pandemic our society has ever faced, and I'm saying that in 2023. Too many people have spent their entire lives in the dark, and that lack of knowledge is what perpetuates the myriad of issues our society faces. And while that's not what we're getting into today, I'll have my notes here to the side. It's important to keep in mind that if you are unwilling to hear, and I don't mean just hear, if you are unwilling to listen to an opposing argument or a contrasting point to your belief, you are part of the problem. So first I want to consider academic freedom. One of the greatest aspects of modern culture is the vast amount of information right at our fingertips, and the idea that that is being stunted based on religious beliefs is, quite frankly, terrifying. This is the United States of America. There is no one state religion. That's clearly stated in our Constitution that we're not bound to any one religion or creed. And to think that people are being forced to practice or at the very least observe a religion they don't believe with is tyranny. And in fact, the opposite of what any real Christian would feel or believe. That's getting off topic. But it's an important thing to note that it's not quite in line with the beliefs that they preach to have. But we'll pass on that. So censorship limits the amount of information available to us. And by limiting that amount of information, we are restricted in a way that is not conducive to any form of learning. There's education, and then there's direction. And I think by corralling people into beliefs by restricting the information on outside beliefs is a way of cultivating an atmosphere and an environment and a society of, for lack of a better term, drones, preventing people from exploring is the easiest way to keep your population stupid. I think that's the only reason conservatives have any base, is that the Bible Belt just won't let them learn. That's of course a much deeper subject, and one we don't have time for today, unfortunately. Censorship also has a massive impact on the environment that learning occurs in. To feel like you're restricted to one belief or another can severely limit the potential of any one student. It's important to keep a growth mindset and to believe that you can learn and can grow. And a censored and restricted environment where information is highly limited is not conducive to believing in oneself and believing that one can learn, even if they aren't particularly interested or passionate about the subject that they're interacting with. It's important to have those options and that availability of information, because how would someone who's naturally gifted in music know that they can play the guitar if they've never seen one? How could someone who's very passionate about their religion know that, there's a history behind it, good or bad? But when that information is restricted, it's nearly impossible to involve oneself with understanding every angle and aspect of what it is they're passionate about. So to wrap that up neatly, once again, censorship is an extremely harmful practice, especially in the education system, and restricting the amount of information available to students is quite surely the final bell of our nation's death. Thank you.